Hello, welcome to Credit.org's Fit Academy podcast. I'm Jennifer Rodriguez, Credit.org's Education and Outreach Coordinator. Our Fit Academy stands for Financial Instructional Training. We offer free financial literacy education, and this podcast is one of the ways we serve the community. Today, we're going to talk about debt reduction. Everyone who is carrying debt from month to month wants to pay it off, but there are effective ways to pay off your debt and bad ways that could leave you worse off than you started. The strategy we encourage is a debt snowball. In a nutshell, the debt snowball means you pay a fixed amount to each of your debts, usually the minimum required monthly payment. Then anything extra you have to put towards the debt repayment goes to the debt with the smallest balance owed. When the smallest balance is paid off, you take everything you were sending to that creditor and put it all towards the smallest balance remaining. It's critical that you don't lower the amount you're paying every month. Every time you pay off another debt, you're putting that much more towards the next smallest debt, and your debt payoff accelerates month after month. The major alternative to the debt snowball is something financial experts often call the debt avalanche. With the debt avalanche, you do the same kind of planning as a snowball, where you pay the minimum to all your debts, then focus your extra funds on one particular debt. But instead of paying the debt with the smallest balance, you put everything extra towards the debt with the highest interest rate. The idea there is that while the debt snowball might get you out of debt the fastest, the debt avalanche saves you more money because you're eliminating the most expensive debts first. Now, let's talk about another strategy you'll see recommended a lot, debt consolidation. Let's be real, a debt consolidation is not a debt repayment strategy. It's not. Repaying debt means you reduce how much you owe month after month. And debt consolidation doesn't do that. It just converts your debt from one type into another. So if you go out and get a debt consolidation loan, you still owe the same amount and maybe even a little more if there were balance transfer fees. So the bottom line is, everyone's situation is unique. Your debts might look very similar to the next person's, but when we add everything up, your debt repayment strategy is always going to be unique to you. Now let's chat with an expert. Joining us today is Jeff Michael, author of Repair Your Credit and Knock Out Your Debt from McGraw-Hill Books. Jeff, thank you for joining us.
Hi, Jennifer.
When it comes to a debt snowball versus a debt avalanche, which one should people consider, depending on their situation?
The debt snowball method is quicker. It's more motivational. You have those little successes along the way as you pay off those smaller debts. Whereas the debt avalanche saves you money. So there are arguments in favor of each method. Generally speaking, though, the debt snowball method is the one we'd recommend to most people. We think that the motivational aspect of just knocking out one debt after another, that can't be overstated, and the snowball method delivers that a lot better than other debt repayment methods.
The avalanche is not your first recommendation. Why is that?
The debt avalanche, that is a crunchy system, and I mean like number crunching. So it's for people who like math, who want to sit down with a spreadsheet and fine tune and really calculate which debt is going to cost me the most, and if I pay extra to it, how much money is it going to save me? But the truth is, the kind of people who want to do that work are not the kind of people we see needing debt counseling. If you're that into the numbers of interest rates and saving money, then you're probably not in a position where you need to figure out which method of debt repayment should I pursue. Obviously, the debt avalanche will work. There's no question about it. But we think for the kind of people who come in for debt counseling, who are struggling with these things, then the psychological effect of the debt snowball method, that's the one we think is more effective. Not the avalanche method where you're just trying to min-max how much you pay in interest every month.
I just talked about debt consolidation and why we don't consider it a debt reduction strategy. Do you think I'm being a little too hard on debt consolidation? What's your take on that?
I would say, if anything, you're being too easy on debt consolidation. We like to say, debt consolidation might end up adding to your debt rather than reducing it. I would say it almost always adds to your debt. When you consolidate, you're going to be paying some kind of balance transfer fee or origination fee or something. So you're just taking all the debt you already owed and roll it into a new loan. And yeah, that new loan might have a lower interest rate, but your overall debt level hasn't gone down. And even worse, now you have all your credit cards paid off, and people tend to use those available balances. They run up more debt. So in our experience, when you have debt consolidation loans, you end up with more debt, not less. And then you're worse off than you started. In particular, home equity is a special problem. We've been watching this for decades. And in the run-up to 2008, with the housing crisis, we saw people were refinancing their homes to pay off their credit cards. But then the market blew up, and people are losing their homes because they had borrowed every available dollar. And when there was any drop in home values, now they were over-leveraged. And we were warning people, hey, don't do this. Don't trade good debt for bad.
So people shouldn't use home equity to pay off credit cards?
We should really talk a little bit about that concept of good and bad debt. Historically, we always say a good debt is something that helps you build wealth. So a small business loan or a mortgage loan that lets you build equity in a home. And in some cases, student loans, right? So traditionally, if you get a student loan and that lets you get a degree that helps you get a higher paying job, you make more money in your lifetime, then student loans are good debt. Now, a lot of people have learned in the last few decades that not all student loans are good debt. If you get a degree that doesn't help you get a good job, that doesn't help you earn more money, then you're borrowing money for no return. So it's what we would call bad debt. Yeah, there's even circumstances where you would say an auto loan is a good debt, right? If you're buying a vehicle that you're going to use to make money with, it's an investment of sorts. So what we want people to do is never cash in, your good debt to pay off bad debt. So never use a mortgage loan to pay off all your credit cards. That's moving in the wrong direction. We always want people to come up with a different strategy. And of course, the housing crisis in 2008 proved us right, where people were losing their houses because they had cashed in home equity to pay off credit cards. So debt consolidation, besides not being a very a viable debt reduction strategy, it's dangerous. It creates these bad scenarios where people can end up far worse than they started.
All right, Jeff, one more question about debt consolidation. Does that apply to something like a debt management plan?
A debt management plan, it doesn't consolidate debt. It only consolidates the payment. So it's not the same thing as a debt consolidation loan at all. A debt management plan from a nonprofit organization will reduce your overall debt month after month. And you have to close all of your open credit card accounts when you put them on the plan, so you can't use them and run up more debt. So it's really the opposite of debt consolidation in those important ways. You can only reduce your debt. You can't increase it. But it doesn't really consolidate all the debts into one lump. It just means you only make one payment every month, and then the nonprofit organization divvies up the money and does all the math and takes care of distributing the funds for you. So it's got advantages in that it's simpler. It does lower your interest rates, debt collection activity stops, all those kinds of things. But instead of shuffling your debt around and just giving you a new loan on top of all the other cards you've already got, it actually gets debt paid off and is designed to keep you from getting right back into deeper debt.
Thank you. Again, that's Jeff Michael, author of Repair Your Credit and Knock Out Your Debt. Thanks again for joining us for our Fit Academy podcast. If you need any help with any kind of debt, find us online at credit.org. Until next time, thanks for listening.